And you can make the argument that a second place team in the Atlantic 12 is, or Atlantic 10, excuse me, is probably more interesting than the eighth place team in the Big 12 or the ACC, right? In terms of what you see on the court. And I think it kind of diminishes what made the tournament great in the first place. Because think about when Florida Gulf Coast went on their run to the Elite Eight. No one heard of this school, and they were flying around, throwing alley-oops, doing all this stuff. It's the power of the unknown is what's so great in college basketball, right? Historically, is that you get these teams and no one heard of Valparaiso before. And then Bryce Drew starts hitting some shots, and all of a sudden they captivate a nation. You don't get that same excitement if a Georgetown team that was like 500 sneaks in, right? It's just like, yeah, this is a team I watched on ESPN, and they're okay, but they're not great, right? That kind of thing. There is no magic in the bottle, and it kind of harkens back. I wrote about this shortly after the tournament ended last year when it was so chalky, right? That Cinderella teams are becoming extinct, and when you're expanding, you're just adding more Power 5 conferences and those teams from those conferences in, and it gives even less breathing room for, a mid-major or quote unquote Cinderella team. And it almost feels like we're in this moment where college sports is becoming more and more professionalized. And I've talked about this with guests on the show before. It's becoming more professionalized. It's obviously there's an NIL aspect and there's the de facto free agency with transfer portal. But beyond that, all the resources go to these big conferences. I truly feel we are in a point where there's a fault line here, and we're seeing the separation happen. And eventually, what this is going to result in is a couple of these conferences forming a semi-pro league, right? Using the names and logos and likenesses of the teams that they represent, right? At this point, Duke basketball is a professional operation, and Michigan State basketball is a professional operation at this point. To act like it's on the same playing field as in a Bowling Green or something like that is foolish, right? And that's the great divide right now, is that these media rights and the conferences that are really paying up all that money are the ones that matter the most. And it leads us to believe here, when is it all gonna be enough? Are we gonna end up in some sort of 128 team tournament down the road? Are we gonna be so tuned in for that?